friends, welcome back to part 3 of my soft pastel videos. In this video I'm going to talk you through my soft pastel process. So I'm actually going to do a larger artwork with you guys. This is my half sheet of view art that I tore the other half and did a smaller artwork on it. So this is half of a UArt soft pastel sheet. It's the sanded one. Surprisingly, this was my favorite one. But you can check out my last video if you want to hear all of my ramblings about soft pastel paper. So I'm literally going to talk to you about how I chose my colors, how I chose what pastels to use, and then how I'm going to apply it and why I'm applying it that way. I've said this before and I'll say it again to you guys. It is so important to know there is not one way of doing things. So this is just how I do my soft pastel drawings. This is not the only way. Actually, the way I do it is quite odd in comparison to other soft pastel artists. So you have to really take what I say today, maybe have a go, decide if that's right for you. If it's not, try a different way. There's lots of other artists out there who show you how their process goes. Just play, work out what works right for you. This is not the only way to do it. This is just the way I do it, and it's a lot of it's based on how I know I like to work. I am a very heavy-handed artist, so I know I'm not going to get lots of fine layers down, and so I've had to find my way without the aid of lots of little fine layers. The other thing that affects that is the type of art you want. So mine is very expressive and a very loose style. If you are hoping for a hyper-realistic, the lighter layers and lots of them are going to be your friend. If you're doing hyper-realistic, this is not the way to do it, because I put lots of pigment down and it's hard to go over the top when you put lots of pigment down straight away. So a lot of realistic artists actually use pastel pencils because they're smaller and they can get a lot more detail with them. I'm all about loose and expressive and ugly. So for most of this video I'm going to probably be chopped off, but the most important bit is the artwork. So I've got here, I just went through all of my soft pastels, and in this little baking dish, I got this from an op shop. It's brilliant. It's so handy. I usually use it as a paint palette, but for today I've put all my pastels in that I want to use. I went right through all of my sets of pastels. I actually took inspiration for this color palette from actually just an Instagram reel I saw the other day. I'm not even entirely sure who it was, but they used an analogous color palette, which is analogous means it's 3 colors next to each other on the color wheel. The one I like the most is that pink, purple, blue. I really like that, so nice. Or purple, blue, green. That is also really nice. I really like those cool colors. But this color palette was orange, pink, purple. And I was like, oof, I actually really liked that. And there was a lot of orange. I don't usually use orange. Now, I don't have heaps of orange pastels because I don't normally use orange very often. So I managed to find, I had a couple of orange Art Spectrum. I also found a couple of blocks. These are the no-name ones, so I can't even tell you exactly. More than likely Mungio or Reeves. So I've got a couple of them in the orange because I just don't have many. You'll find that yourself. You'll start collecting pastels that you use more of. I have stacks of pinks and purples, so I just grabbed a heap of different ones. I'm not necessarily going to use all these, but I want them there in one place so I can put it back and forth. I did grab my J Ladder. If you want to know my thoughts of that, check out part 1. The links to part 1 and 2 will be down below, by the way. So that's the J Ladder. This one is part of a Art Spectrum soft pastel. I've only got the regular cylindrical Art Spectrum soft pastels in here. I do have a set of purples of the extra soft. Do you think I know where it is in my shed? No idea. So if I could find that later, I might add some to it. My shed / studio is an absolute mess at the moment. So I've got then a heap of different pinks, some like really pretty like rose pinks in here. And I grabbed this one. This is a John Richardson one, and it's a very light, looks like a a very, very light peach. So I didn't have quite enough lights. But then, because I didn't have enough lights in the pinks, purples, oranges, I decided to grab this Art Spectrum. It's a lemon yellow, but it's the lightest lemon yellow. So it is essentially a cream. So I really wanted to have some lights. And then I thought, well, if I'm doing that, in the John Richardson kit, they had this really nice lemon yellow. So this really nice lemon yellow. The camera doesn't usually do these colors any justice. So I grabbed it because I thought it looked actually quite a nice little contrast to those colors. So that's going to be something I probably use towards the end, just as in really quite sparingly, to kind of add a little bit more contrast to it. I don't have, so I'm using the Analogous palette for this one. Analogous pretty much always works. So if you pick 3 colors that are next to each other on the color wheel, they're going to work together. It's an easy way to pick a color palette that is going to work. Other than some of the more tricky, like the triads and things like that, may not necessarily work very well together, depending on what ones you picked and things like that. Analogous is easy. It's pretty foolproof, actually. I do have all my pastels out set up around me. I've got, just down here, I've got my box of all my no-name ones. If I do find that I haven't got a light enough in this box, I do have like my titanium whites. There are some creams and stuff I've got in there too. So depending on if I've got the right color for the job, I've got lots of mids. I really am short on the light, and the darks are pretty good. I've got the purples. Generally, purple tends to be a dark color anyway, value wise, and I tend to check. I actually, when I put all these out to check, I actually squinted my eyes and looked at it, because when you squint your eyes, you actually take color out and you see tone. So you can easily see, well, actually my lights are actually really good. So that this lemon yellow is actually a light because of just the nature of the pigment. So when I squint, I go, I got some good lights, really good mids, and a couple of really good darks. So that's good. My only concern is maybe the darks aren't quite dark enough. So I know in the Jack, oh, I've been calling him John, I think. In the Jack Richardson set, there is a really nice navy blue. So if I'm finding these purples aren't quite dark enough, or this, I've got this one here, which is Bordeaux. It's like a wine color. If I'm finding they're not dark enough, I can always jump over and grab that John Richardson one. If you're going to do that, when I'm doing my artworks, I tend to think a good rule of thumb is to use the same color in at least 3 different spots. Not always. That's not always the case. I don't always do that. But especially if I'm introducing a brand new color like that navy, just to keep it cohesive and just that, so that one little bit's not standing out awkwardly, I would just pop it in even just a little dab in a couple of other little places, just so that it's throughout the artwork and it's not just in that one spot. I always think a rule of 3 with pretty much everything. I'm going to pick a reference picture. I'm going to pick a reference picture that is one of mine, so that I can have it up here so you can see. Also off to the side here, I've got some antibacterial wipes, and you can see I've already been using this one. So I've got antibacterial wipes mainly for my hands, keeping my hands cleanish. I do have ones in here that have on the pack cancer-causing pigments. I would probably recommend you use gloves. I'm not going to. It's usually, don't quote me on this, usually if you breathe it in. So just being aware that not to blow the pastel. I do have a couple of really big fluffy brushes to help brush it down, and I just let it fall, and then I use the wipes to wipe it up. But I've got a whole pack of these sitting here ready to go too. While we're on colour, I actually haven't picked any unison because I didn't think any of the colours in that palette that I've got suited it. I am going to use this one extra soft pastel. It's a burnt umber greyish. I think it's a C. I ripped off the package because the package went all the way to the end. It's very hard to use. I'm going to use that for sketch. It might be too dark. I don't know. If it is too dark, I do have the lighter one. I have the A here as well. Oh, this is just raw umber A. So I've got these two here mainly for sketching, just so I've got a bit of an outline, because I don't mind if these colours get completely covered. I've actually picked this giraffe picture that I took. I think that might be at Mogozu. I'm not 100% certain. So I'm actually going to keep this as portrait. Yeah, it's too dark. It's too dark. So I've actually grabbed the A1. I'm going to just do some sketching to show a bit of a planning out. So I've got his one horn there, the other horn there. You want to try, especially with this part, keeping it as loose as possible. If you start getting tight at this point, your whole picture will become really tight, and that's not what we want to do. That's better. So you can see I'm not too worried about marks that are incorrect. I'm not going to correct them. That for me adds to it. I did rub it slightly just to push it back a little bit. Other than that, I'm not really going to do much with that mark that wasn't quite right. So I'm holding my pastel really loosely too. Again, this is just how I do it. Don't stress too much. If you find that the way you do it's a bit different to mine, that's good. That means you've worked it out what's right for you. So I don't want to add too much detail at this stage. Kind of just where the eyes are, the general shape of it all, getting things in the right position. So I think that's pretty good for now. I'm not going to add too much more detail. You probably can't even really see that. That's good. And I'm just going to get stuck straight in. The colours I start with, there is no real rhyme or reason. Lately I've been starting with this kind of more darker tone. Not necessarily mid, but not dark. This is the J Ladder one. This won't go over the top of the other one. So I'm picking this one because yes, it's a bit darker than a mid, but it's also, I know what the pastel can do, and I know it's not going to go over the top of others very well. Now in this instant, I'm actually going to look more at shape rather than form. And just start building it up. Because I don't want too much real dark, and I also don't really want too much extremely light. So I want the mid-tone to kind of be the dominant tone in this one. And there are rules like the 60-30-10 rule. You can make it apply for colors. It's not a definite rule. So you use 60% of, maybe in this case I might use 60% pink, 30% purple, 10% orange if I wanted to. I might do 60% mid-tone, 30% darks, 10% lights, or you can mix that up. It makes it for a very interesting drawing. I'm going to put a bit of this on these horns too. And you can see I'm not going to go crazy with the colours because I can always come back. I can always come back with those colours. I am going to come in with an orange. I might go this orange and add a little bit more. So this is a lighter mid. So I'm going to add a bit more of the lighter colours. Now, if these weren't so new, I probably would have broken it and used this on its side as well. I'm just adding it in. Just start where I think those not quite mid-tones are. And trying hard not to just do like an outline. With a lot of my artworks, the outline is very important, is very prominent. Okay, and I'm just going to keep swapping and changing. I'm going to use this darker orange now to build up some of these darks in here again. His lip's actually quite dark. And you can see, I don't know if you can see actually, you might not be able to, but the pastel dust is just kind of falling down and landing in this little groove of my easel here. Again, this is a darker, this is not quite a mid-tone, this is probably a darker side, so I'm actually going to come in with more of these darks. It's actually quite an interesting colour, this one. I'm actually going to come in now with this No Name one because it's more of a true orange rather than what's happening. And I'm just adding it just around the edge of that orange just before, because this one's also a dark. And I'm going to add some of this up here again too. So I need to probably come, and I'm going to probably have to come back in with that J Ludder again to keep that pinky tone that I've got. But that's the joy of it all. There's a darker bit in his ear here too. I just keep going. I keep adding, keep things. And like I said, I don't really have necessarily a rhyme or reason. I sometimes just see that is darker than this orange, and I need to be aware of that. So I'm going to have to go a really light yellow pink there. Really just playing around with it. I've used soft pastels for years. Just, you've got to get to know your medium. So just practice. I wouldn't start on a big artwork like this. I would start small, start in your sketchbook. Start on smaller bits of paper. If you're going to sell them, do the small ones and then sell them. And just so you're making multiple artworks, not just one or two, and hoping that they sell, because people can usually tell. I'm actually going to come in with some super light. This guy's got this highlight here. Actually, this is a nice light. This one's going to work well. I don't want too much of this, but the good point about putting it in now is that some of this might get covered up. So just because I put colour here doesn't mean that's finished. I'm still probably going to add layers to that, and that's fine. If I had a fancy colour in the background, you see people with hot pink backgrounds and things like that, I might be less likely to fill up the paper so much because I want some of that coming through. But I think in the case of this, I'm quite happy to cover most of this up. He's got a nice highlight on his eyelid here too. I am going to come in now with a darker. This is not one of my darks, but it is darker, and I'm actually going to do some of the spots. This is actually very similar to the J Ludder. I might go purple for the spots. And really, that doesn't look too bad with the two-tone in there either. And so, like even the spots, they're not going to be entirely dark, so I might come in with a bit of a light. And even this light purple, where can I show you? I might put a little bit in this ear. You can see it's actually not super light. It's nowhere near as light as, like if I put it next to this pink, and if I squint, that purple has a darker value than that pink, even though they look like they are the same value. So purple tends to generally be lighter in value. Where's that purple gone? Yeah. I'm also going to come in with his eye here. Actually going to go back here. See, and if, like, I just put the purple there, I didn't like it. I could potentially, because there's already quite a bit of pastel down, I could actually just rub it. And what that does, it takes off some of the pastel that's sitting on the surface and brings back some of that tooth. You could also apply a little bit of water too, and that would also bring it back. the other reason this isn't going over the top very well is because of the actual pastel's quite hard. So you can see this orange and this pink are going over the top of each other, and they're kind of mixing. It's why I don't really worry too much about blending, because I really like when they just kind of mix on the surface. And so the harder the pastel, the more it will automatically blend, because it's actually pushing the pastel around. It's doing what your fingers or a blending stump might do. Come in with that lighter orange here. This is really borderline a yellow actually, and it's interesting how different colors look once you actually apply them on the thing. If I wanted to, I could actually potentially have done a little mini one in a sketchbook, or at least applied all these to see what they look like as a cohesive group of colors. I didn't. I want orange to kind of be not a dominant color, but I want you to see that orange. My real lights are going to come in at the end like this, the yellow. Now, if I wanted to, in this container, I could have a layer of rice, and what that would actually do is stop my pastels getting dirty. And you can see my lemon yellow is actually getting quite dirty because of the other pastels are shedding their dust, and it's just sticking to the lighter colors. It doesn't bother me too much, but if you put a layer of rice, just uncooked rice at the bottom, it helps to collect the dust as opposed to transferring it between your pastels. I learned that one from Sandy Hester. Thank you very much. Have I used any of that one? No, I haven't. This is actually it's such a nice pink, this one. Where am I putting it? It's slightly lighter than the J Ladder. But it's also softer, so I'm going to save that one because it will go over easier than the J Ladder one. I'm going to come back down here. So I jump all over my artwork, and you can see I'm basically working on the face, not even really working on the neck at this point. I probably should be. Add a bit. And this is just what I do. So this horn's almost finished. I'm just going to add a little bit of extra darks when I get the purples back out. But I'm actually liking how that looks, so I'm actually not going to touch this horn other than the very tip of it. And this one needs more work, but yeah, you can see I kind of jump around. Jump up, get down. I don't know about this orange. It's interesting. So yeah, it's just about keep going, keep adding those layers. You get to know your materials the more you use them. So just get them out, get them using them. Don't save the fancy materials for a rainy day. You'll never use them. Never ever use them. Actually, I wonder if this one's darker. So this purple here is slightly darker. What about... Well, that's a bluey purple. That's interesting. I don't think I used that one yet. actually going to use this bluey purple because it's the darkest kind of tone I've got. One of the darker ones. And I'm actually going to start filling in the eyes. Now the eyes on a giraffe, they do just appear to be very black. But you want to add some tone. So I actually think, oh no, that's nice actually. I'm going to add some tone in here. I'm using more than one colour in his eye. I'm just going to see. Interesting. That one's going around the outside. And then down the bottom, there's almost like a really light line. So I'm actually going to add that in. And it doesn't really have a shine, but if you add a little shine, yeah, it makes it come alive, but sometimes it can look a bit cartoony. So I find if you just use multiple colors in what appears to be black, then I think it helps make it look alive rather than be dead. I am going to get the yellow out because he's got these little eyelashes that I just want to pop in. Oh, see, that's helped too. Now, where's my light pink? Probably needed more purple in my palette, I think. More types of purples. Actually, I might get this. And even where I had originally put the pink and then the purple over it, you still see a little bit of that pink coming through, and it adds that depth, which is kind of nice. I'm just adding a bit of this wine colour, Bordeaux, I think it is, just to add a bit more depth into the spots as well, because it's starting to get a little bit flat, I think. So if it's looking flat, more layers. Mix some colours together, add those layers, and that's what gives it the depth as opposed to being really flat. Here, I might add this one in here. Have I used this peachy colour? No, I haven't yet. So again, I'm just going over some bits, but also filling in others to try and really build up this picture. So here I just added some pink because there wasn't enough contrast between the head and the ear, and it actually just looked like one shape across. You couldn't actually tell the difference between the ear and the head. Now I need to work on that a bit more. I need to probably either, let me check the picture. Yeah, I need to push that ear further back and bring this forward. I think there's a bit more highlights here on the head, but instead of using the same highlight as the ear, I'm actually going to get this yellow, the lemon yellow, out just to add to that. Now, so it's not a line, I just changed my direction a little bit there too. And I'm going to add a little bit of that up here. I like to add the 3 because it just helps a little bit if I forget to come back with it. And even though you can't really see where I added it there, you will. It makes the difference. It becomes more cohesive. I'm going to add this down here too. Actually, go back to this guy. I am going to pop his other eye in. The other eye is a lot smaller. I do? What a colour? I used the other purple, didn't I? So this eye looks a lot flatter than this eye, because this eye I added in that shine at the bottom, and I also added the eyelashes. This rose colour is very similar to the J Ladder, and I'm now at a point where the J Ladder probably isn't going to do much over the top. So I'm going to use this interchangeably with the J Ladder to try and keep building those layers. I do need to add more of this pink though, because I've got this pink. This is the Jack Richardson one. It's up here but nowhere else. So I'm just going to add some above the eye here. Now that I've added it to that ear, I'll come and add it to this ear too. So you can see I'm slowly building these layers, even though it's not going to be hyper realistic. Like, that doesn't matter. I don't think I've used this pink yet. And sometimes, like, I'm trying to use all the colours I've got in here, but sometimes you don't have to. Less is more. It's why I use a limited colour palette. So just because this pink is in here doesn't mean I have to use it anywhere in my... But now that I've used in a couple of spots, I'm just gonna, like I did before, just put a couple of bits around. Added a little bit around here between the shadow and the light. Maybe a little bit up here. Just so it's not, doesn't stand out. And you can see, like, this at the moment down here is quite a solid orange shape. That won't be, because you can see I'm already starting to bring in, this pink came in here. And that helps make it look like not just a flat shape. And these are very similar in tone, so if I actually squint, I can't tell much of a difference between that pink that I just put there and that orange, and that's fine. I am going to put some more of this dark orange in though. Is that the same orange? It looks very similar. I wish I had a darker orange, but what I might actually do is actually go with this J Ladder, and because I don't have a darker orange, oh great, put a bit of purple there. Because I don't have a darker orange, I'm going to go with the J Ladder and just go over the tops very lightly. And then come back in with that same orange. To just blend it out a little bit. And suddenly, I've got a darker orange. And it's cohesive because I've not added another colour. I've just used colours that I've already got. And you can do that a couple of times until you've got kind of the tone and stuff that you like. Need to come and work on his forehead a little bit. Actually, probably need to work on the nose a bit too. So it's about just constantly trying to add and build up those layers. Like, and at this point there's lots of spots where things need to happen. Actually, I did that with the yellow, didn't I? And those little eyelashes are just added because I knew that's what made this eye look come alive. You actually can't see them in the reference picture, so I just added them. It's called artistic license. You can add little things like that as well, especially like a giraffe's not these colours. While I've got this out, maybe I should add a bit. I want to start adding on here. I know I'm not finished his face, and that's fine, but I'm going to add down here as well because I need it to be cohesive. But to add contrast, because his neck's kind of a different tone, I'm actually, because I haven't got much orange here, I'm actually going to do, especially this part of his neck, I'm going to do quite orange so that there is kind of a difference between, and you can see the difference there between the and really this, you could leave this neck kind of undone, and that would be fine. And I might do that, maybe, maybe not. You can see I'm making lots of marks here. That will, with soft pastels, that will just erase. So at the end, when I'm finished and I've dusted off as much as I want, I will just get the eraser and erase some of these little marks. And it's just been from, it's just from my hand because my hands are getting dirty. If you've got gloves, you might change the gloves, or you could wash the gloves and reuse them. I could wash my hands too. Actually, this orange and this like really pretty pink here, which I think was the John Richardson, they go together so nicely. Because of that, I'm actually going to add more of them together because I know they complement each other really well. One's lighter, one's darker, so I'm actually going to make sure there's a lot more of that kind of together. And actually, you know what, let's add a bit of that pink down here as well. See, by adding those multiple colours into those spots, they just end up with a lot more depth. Kind of adding too much white around here now, or the light. Anyway, there's no white, but so I'm actually going to go back in with like just to push some of that lighter colour back. I kind of went a bit too crazy with it, and I still wanted some of it to come through, but not quite as much. Now this purple, this lighter purple, I've got lots around here but nowhere else, so I'm actually just going to add a little bit of it around the joint. Now I did just get rid of some of that light. I will bring that back in a minute. I'm just going to add a little bit up here. Now I do have to be careful because purple and orange, when you mix purple and orange together, you're going to get brown. So I have to be very careful not to muddy them too much. So I'm going to put a little bit of purple here next to this orangey colour. If I went over that orange, it probably would become quite muddied there. So I'm actually going to add a bit of pink in between, coming down here. And maybe some more on this side too. Yeah, that's too light there. So you can add it and then go over, and really, soft pastels are a very forgiving medium. This bit here where I originally started is, to me, becoming quite flat because I'm adding so much around. So I'm just going to try and add some other little details from his skin with a similar pink. It's a lighter pink, but it's still up there. I'm actually going to add a bit of this one in. Ooh, that's a lot darker. I didn't realize that. And so where I've lost a little bit of that highlight here, I can just come back in. It's getting to the point where I can't add too much on top, so I just brush it with my finger a little bit, and then I should be able to add a little bit more. There's a little bit here that's become a little bit muddy, and I just, yeah, that's better. Just see if I can bring a bit of that J Ladder back in. So it's just a push and a pull, push and a pull. Add a bit of this, add a bit of that. And what you'll find is, if you've done like me and you've got a whole heap of pastels, you'll find that you start gravitating towards particular ones more than others. And that's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm actually going to bring in some of this dark here, so we can actually tell that that's like the mane coming down his back. And I might even add a bit of pink, because that orange is just not quite dark enough. And I don't, because I'm doing very loose, it doesn't have to be exact, I just want to show that that's what's happening there. And you can still see there's some of this sketch still around with that lighter colour, and I think that just adds an extra layer of depth. I'm kind of stepping back more now. I want to see what still needs working. This, you can still see some of the paper coming through. I'm actually not too worried, because I really like how his face is looking at the moment. I just want to fix the horns, because I wanted to bring a little bit of this into the top of it. And maybe some of that wine, where's that? Just helps to blend that in so it's not just so harsh. And I am going to come back in with some of that pinky tone, especially this side. And so sometimes I will like go and I'll just do a little scribble, because if it's, especially if I think it's kind of a bit too tight, just kind of add a little bit here and there of a bit of a scribble. I need to add more in here around these because you can see too many marks. I actually think I am not far from being finished. These nostril bits need a little bit more work, but other than that, the rest of the face I'm quite happy with. I haven't added my lemon yellow bright yet, so that will be next on this. I haven't had any of that. Now's not the time to introduce new colours that you haven't already planned. The nostrils, I'm actually going to bring this one in. I'm also going to stand back and just see if my darks are dark enough, and whether I need to introduce some of that navy. I am going to introduce this wine, actually, this Bordeaux. I call it wine, but I think it's, what is it, Bordeaux, is actually seems to be darker than the purple, and I'm just going to add a little bit into the eyeballs because I want those eyes to look quite dark because they are black. Yeah, I don't want to add too much more to them. That's good. I think I'm pretty happy with that. When I sign my work, I kind of try and hide it in here. I'm not going to sign it with these. I sign it with a soft pastel pencil because it's just, I don't want it big and chunky and you to be able to see it. So just on my hand there, you can see I've been cleaning off pastels, especially like this yellow one. I just touch it to my skin and do that. You can have a paper towel for that. This is probably not the safest way to do it, but again, I've got my, in a minute, once I've added this one, I'm gonna wipe my hands, clean them before I get the eraser out. This one I want to add in sparingly, but I also want it to, I want you to be able to see it though. So I'm going to go heavy-handed with it. It's actually quite, I actually like it. It's nice. Maybe I should have put this yellow in, but I wanted it to be kind of a bit of a little feature, a little pop. I'm going to add a bit on. I don't want too much of it. You know, I want some up here as well. So you could see up here especially, I actually had to press quite hard to get that to mark because there's already lots of pastels sitting there. I feel like it needs a little bit down here. So I'm going to show you how I sign it. I just grabbed one of my Caran d'Ache. It's this really nice pinky corally colour. And I'm actually going to sign just under here. But first I need to clean it up because it's quite messy under there. I don't use any fancy rubbers. I literally just use whatever I can find. So this is literally the rubber I'm using today because it's just what I had on hand. I'm not going to use the blue side because it's like a pen eraser, so it's too much. It'll leave too much stuff on the page. I'm just going to erase, and I just go quite lightly because there's still some of that drawing down here that I want to savor. So, but I'm just going to go lightly around here just to get rid of some of these marks. So I've just grabbed a couple of really soft brushes like this to brush it off. This larger area, just all those shavings or the dust from the eraser can come off. If you're going to erase, you've just got to be wary that like I have to now erase all around here because the dust as it's fallen some of it has stuck to the paper, so I will need to erase all the way around, and you want to make sure you do this before doing any type of fixative. I will do that in a second. I'm just going to show you, I don't know the best practice for signing artworks. I can just show you what I do. This might not be what I do forever in the future, but it's what I do right now. And so under here I've got a color that's very similar to colors that are throughout my artwork, and I just write mace. Oops, it's a bit big. You can see it, but from afar it's not really noticeable, and I do that with all my artwork. So let's talk fixative. I don't actually fix my works very often. It depends on what's happening. If I'm going to frame them behind glass, I don't bother fixing them. Pastels pretty much always need to be behind glass, even if you're really good at fixing them. I've seen people use resin over the top. What's going to happen when you add moisture to pastels is they're going to go darker. So this whole painting would become darker. So if I went resin over the top, because it mixes with that pigment, it's just going to become darker and your colors aren't going to be true. I use a spray fixative. There's ones out there that apparently are better or worse. I know Winsor & Newton do a really great one, but it's over $100, and I just at the moment don't earn enough money from my artwork to be able to afford that. So these are the two types that I get. This one I've had for donkey's years. It's Micador Fixable Workable Matte. You want the workable because the idea of that is it's permanent, so that you can then work over the top of it. I've also got this New Art fixative as well. The reason I swapped to this one is only because my local art supplier stocks this one but not this one. These are about $20 a can, a little bit more than $20 now. This one cost me $19 because the tag's still there, but I know that's not $19 anymore. They've all gone up in price. They are what I use. I will show you a little video in a minute of how I fix it. For today, I'm actually going to do it in my shed because of one reason. It's very windy outside. You want to, normally I would do this outside because that's just the best place to do it, or a really well ventilated area. So I'm in a shed. I'm actually going to open a roller door to help out with that. And then once I've finished fixing it, I'm actually going to leave my shed because I don't want to be breathing these fumes throughout the day. So I will leave my shed, my studio, for a couple of hours just until those fumes have dissipated, basically. With my charcoal, I go heavy-handed. I just all over, because if the charcoal goes darker, that's good for me. I like a nice dark charcoal. So I slather this on like no tomorrow. With soft pastels, because I don't want it to go darker, we're going to go light layers. Super important. This is where I think safety is so important. I'm going to wear a mask for this. I always wear a mask for it. These are so toxic to breathe in. I know they're not the most environmentally friendly, and I do want to try the non-spray can one. I can't remember the name of it. It's not Art Spectrum, but it's something Spectrum, I think. Fixative Spectrum, I'm not sure exactly. And it's like just a regular spray bottle. But from what I can gather, the droplets are a lot bigger, and it can cause your artworks to become speckly. So I haven't tried it yet. I am going to, I think, in the future. But for now, I've got these, and I'm going to use these because I've got them. I'm going to go mask up. I've got a respirator mask with the 2 filters. When I do it, you want to be at least 30 centimeters away, so about a foot away from your artworks, and you're just going to go in a real sweeping motion. I don't necessarily do it exactly right, so I will go for a sweeping motion, give it a little bit, I give it a minute, and then I will go again a different direction, and I will then come back out in about an hour, do it again. So I will show you exactly what I do now. I'm going to grab my mask. This is the mask I've got, the double. I'm just going to check it because I have used it before and there was a huntsman hiding in this lip. Okay, we are spider free. Now you could wear this while you're drawing. I don't. This would be the safest way to do soft pastels with a mask on. And you can get the smaller disposable dust mask as well. I got this because I did a lot of resin and I do a lot of fixing. So I want to be super safe during those. Give it a good shake. I need to make sure my background is nice because I'm not going to be able to erase anything after this. And I just spray. I am going to go up and down as well now. Maybe give it a little bit in between. That's why I'm going to talk to you for a second. Let it dry a little bit. And then I'm just going to go up and down. Now I'm going to stop, leave, and come back in about an hour and do that again. Thank you so much for joining me for this little soft pastel adventure. If you haven't watched part 1 and 2, the links will be down in the description. I'm just going to spray this again for the second time and finish up. So please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for making it this far. Here is part 1. I'll pop part 1 here for you to click on if you'd like to watch. Thanks.